Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fans, patrons, everyone from the True Heel Nation. This is your good brother J-News with another rendition of J-News Japan, but today we're bringing you a pay-per-view roundtable talking about the G1 Climax 30 Finals. And today we have two guests with me, the one and only. Yes, it's him. Yes, it's him. Yes, it's him. It is SP3 in the building. And SP3, I'm going to let you introduce our special guest to the roundtable today.
It's me. It's your True Heel Phenom, SP3, back once again with the good brother J-News, our New Japan aficionado. But we have an expert here. He is from one of the largest wrestling YouTube channels in the world today. He is their resident New Japan expert. He is their resident luchador. And he is the Quizzlemania fact-checker, statistician extraordinaire. The one, the only. This is Tempest.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. As you said, I am WrestleTalk's New Japan expert. I am the Quizzlemania fact-checker. Hopefully that means I should be able to do an adequate job of breaking down the G1 Climax 30 tournament as well as the finals. I'm very happy to be here. Let's get things rolling.
Sweet. Gentlemen, the finals were something. I would say I made a promise at one of my earlier recordings that I would riot if SANADA did not win this tournament, or at least reach the finals. But he reached the finals, and you
called him winning the whole New Japan Cup.
I did.
And the fact that he didn't make it to the finals of the New Japan Cup made me not go for him, even though it was likely that he was going to go to the finals here. But I was just like, nah, they keep letting us down with the SANADA push, but they finally came through for you. I was most happy for the B Block finals for you more than anyone.
Yeah, man. It was interesting to see because I didn't know how they were going to work out the math, right? Because when I was breaking everything down, I was like, oh, crap, Naito got 12. This fool Evil over here got 12. How is this going to work out? Oh, he's not going to be able to overcome Evil Dick again. What are we doing? And it's like, all right, let's see how they make this happen. And I wasn't mad at the finish. I wasn't mad at Abushi. Spoiler for everyone ahead of time, Abushi is the two-time reigning G1 Climax tournament winner. I wasn't mad at the finish or the result at all. It's a greater story. I think we talked about that as well, Sid, in a couple of recordings ago. But it signifies them finally giving SANADA that path, that way to the championship, either gold, be it Intercontinental or IWGP Heavyweight Championship possibilities in the future. They finally freaking did it. I got a little worried during the match with Evil, right, for the B Block finals, because they were wearing matching gear. And I said to myself, no, this can't be. Not another turn. He's not going to lay down for Evil.
No, it was appropriate. It felt like if they were former tag team partners together, right. So it felt appropriate. What was your thoughts, Tempest, on the A block and the B block finals? Because I feel like the A block was more of like the surprise night, while the B block kind of went how a lot of people probably expected it. Because I did expect SANADA to come down and win it, because it kind of followed that G1 format. Someone starts out 0-2, 0-3, and then rallies it up. So it was appropriate for SANADA to start 0-3 and then come all the way back. But what was your thoughts on the A and the B block finals, Tempest?
Well, yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head there, where the A block being so stacked meant that there were a number of people kind of crammed together at the top, where on the final day, you could have seen Will Osprey, Kazuchika Okada, Kota Ibushi, or Jay White all have made it to the G1 Climax finals. And that being the format that they went with, it meant that 4 of the last matches on the day all held that importance. And even still, the opening match, by some outside shot, Jeff Cobb could have made it, but, whatever. But, obviously that was more of a long shot. But it meant that it was a bit more exciting in the A block because every match meant something, and all of those 4 guys realistically could have been a really good G1 Climax finalist. Whereas on the B block side, the only 2 matches that really carried weight were the final 2, with Naito obviously going against Kenta, and then Evil going against SANADA. I felt that the A block final was more exciting because of that, but that kind of also goes for the entire A block compared to the B block as well. You know, I didn't see the same level of competition on the B block side, and there weren't as many guys on that side that I could have realistically seen make it to the G1 Climax final. So when it came down to Evil and SANADA, I had kind of thought that these were the 2 most likely people to make the final. Possibly also someone like Hiroshi Tanahashi. Tournament didn't go that way for him. But that being said, Evil and SANADA kind of reflected more of what we've seen in recent G1 Climaxes, where I know last year Kota Ibushi started out 0-2 before running the table, making it to the final and ultimately winning it. And that's kind of what we saw this year from SANADA. He had a really slow start, getting beaten by like YOSHI-HASHI and guys that you wouldn't necessarily expect beating someone who would make it to the final. But that being said, he then ran the table, picking up some big wins. And like you said, News, it was really good to see because I've been a big fan of SANADA for a long time. And it felt like this was a year where they really needed to throw him a bone and give him something to work with. You know, we've seen that from a lot of different guys in these tournaments over the years where they won't necessarily win, but you'll get a really good performance and that'll kind of carry their year going forward. And we hadn't seen that from SANADA in a while. He did not do particularly well in the standings last year. He had his fantastic match against Kazuchika Okada, which obviously led to the championship match that fall, but he didn't do well overall in the tournament, and that carried through for the rest of his year. Lost that title match, lost to Zack Saber Jr. at Wrestle Kingdom, didn't win the New Japan Cup, so it just kind of compounded his struggles. This was a year where he finally had that breakthrough performance and managed to take that next big step, and hopefully it allows him to keep doing so going forward.
I do really like the connection that he's kind of built with the fans, because especially in Ryogoku, we know the restrictions. The fans can't yell or scream or cheer, but there was like a few moments on those 3 nights where the fans just forgot. And one of them was when he got the pin on Evil in the B block finals. Like, I hadn't heard that type of emotion from a New Japan crowd throughout this whole entire tournament. So it was very nice to see there. The only other thing I want to ask before News gets into the matches, because we know with the finals, it was different from the block play. We didn't get a lot of singles matches. It was mostly multi-man matches. But this was a question that they said on commentary. How do you guys feel about the new format that they had with only having A block competitors on the A block nights, B block competitors on the B block nights, and not the tag team matches? Because in my past watching the G1, the tag team matches play like a storyline. It's like the weekly television leading up to a big pay-per-view for, WWE, AEW, but the tag team matches for the G1 usually give you the storylines for the matches ahead of time. So how did you feel about not having that, but mainly having kind of big time blockbuster shows like Night 13, which I've said before, it's the best wrestling show I've seen all year. How did you guys feel about that? We'll start with you, News.
My take for it, man, I think I said this before, and I'll reiterate this. I liked the format this year. I am not a big fan or a big proponent of them doing these crazy 4-man, 6-man, 10-man tag team matches. And I understand the delivery of the matches and how they're supposed to set up storylines and things of that nature. But the one-on-one matches is what we necessarily look forward to, especially with these big events. And being that the G1 tournament already has 20 competitors, 10 on each side, why are we going to convolute and create more tag team matches when all you should have is really – you already have 6 matches on one card. You're going to build it up even more with more tag matches, just from guys from the B block on an A block night and guys from the A block on a B block night. That for me is a little bit too much. I think this year's format was really, really dope, but the unofficial C block, because I will mention these guys until the end of time. This crop of young lions has taken it to another level. and they impressed the hell out of me from the beginning of the year to now. Their G1 Climax 30 tournament play between those three guys, man, listen, it could have been a real C block for everything that was going on. But it added to the shows. It really helped start the shows in different ways, because they wrestled all these different styles of matches. It wasn't all the same thing. So that was cool within the format as well. And I think they should continue to go forward with this. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind the multi-man matches on the road shows. You know what I'm saying? To set up storylines that way. But when you have a main tour or tournament like G1 or Dominion or something of that nature, I think the one-on-one matches, unless it's an actual tag match, should be the way that they go, instead of having all these filler tag matches and a whole bunch of, and not to discredit the older guys and stuff like that, the New Japan dads, but it's like a lot of the new guys don't get enough shine one-on-one as it is. So it's like, let's see them one-on-one, even if it's not the ultimate match they're going to have at whatever event it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? Have them work their way up that way. So that's my thoughts on it.
How about you, Tempest?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has its benefits and its detractions for obvious reasons. First and foremost, as someone who has to watch these shows, obviously for pleasure, but also for work, it really does help to cut out the fat and make these shows like 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 2.5 hours long. That really helps the flow of the shows, because personally I find that a big show that's like 2.5 hours long is like the perfect length. Anything longer than that, it tends to drag a little bit. And if you add in those 3-4 extra tag matches, that makes these shows last about 3.5 to 4 hours long. It just makes it that much longer, that much more difficult to get through. And not that these matches would be bad by any means, but obviously everyone knows Climax Show 4, and it's going to be the singles matches. So just cutting out that first half of the show and getting right into the meat of things, it just helps with the flow, with the excitement, all that. Obviously, I know why they do it. It's to build storylines, and also for people going to that show, it means that you get to see everyone in the tournament wrestle, even if it isn't that specific block's night or not. But that being said, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing this format continue, just for the sake of the flow of the shows being that much better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. Like, this was the first year for me, Tempest, that I actually had to watch the G1 for work, as well as, for the pleasure of watching some of the best wrestling in the world. I had to do my articles for Sportskeeda, and just the way the show just breezed by, 2.5 hours, felt compact. You get 3 matches in the beginning, then an intermission, then 3 matches at the end. It just was a nice, breezy type of flow. That's why I will go to the ends of earth. And I said this like 3 or 4 times throughout the tournament. I was like, night 5 is the best match, the best show of the tournament. Night 11 was the best show of the tournament. And then after night 13 kind of capped it off. And I was just like, no, this is not only the best show of the whole entire tournament, this is the best wrestling show that I've seen all year. I know Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer, it's probably the greatest 2.5 hour wrestling show of all time, which is high praise for an historian like him. So I agree with you guys. Not having the tag team matches makes it an easier watch if you're doing it for work, if you're doing it for pleasure, and it just makes for a great viewing experience.
Yeah, man. Agreed.
So News, take it away with this show, G1 Climax 30 Finals. And this is a reminder to you guys, just before we get into anything, push the like button, show your support for this video, push the subscribe button at the iCard down at the bottom, and the bell below that to stay notified for all the great content right here on True Heel Heat.
That is always pertinent in the minds of everyone watching our shows. So it was live last night, if you want to say yesterday morning, whatever, on our side, Sunday, October 18th in Tokyo, Ryogoku, 2,928 fans in attendance. It seemed like a sizable crowd just from the look of it. 3 nights in a row at Ryogoku. And like you said, Sid, there were certain parts throughout the last 3 nights, where the fans forgot protocol and you love to hear the pop, and you love to hear that emotion come out of the fans, and it was cool to see, especially in the wake of Sanada's ascension and stuff like that. But let's get to it. Final night of the G1 Climax tournament. The first match was an 8-man tag. It was the Chaos faction, Torujano, YOSHI-HASHI, Tomohiro Ishii, and Hiroki Goto versus those bastards of Suzuki-gun, Doki, El Desperado, Zack Saber Jr., and Tai Chi. Gentlemen, Tempest, let me know what your thoughts on this match was and how it went for you.
Well, it was interesting to see. We haven't seen a big tag match from New Japan, and that's kind of their staple. We hadn't seen that in a while. So getting back into the format, it was a bit refreshing. Obviously, it was the opening match, so we weren't going to get anything super crazy.
Right.
But that being said, it was good to kind of see how they might be building towards things going forward. Obviously, Zack Saber Jr. and Tai Chi are the IWGP World Tag Team Champions, so they're going to need a challenger going forward, whether that comes from people that they faced in the G1 Climax or whether that comes from, the World Tag League that's coming up. That's going to be something we'll have to wait and see. But that being said, I did enjoy this match within reason. Obviously, it's not going to be a show stealer or anything like that, but I did like the interplay from people that had faced each other in the tournament and the people that, again, hadn't been on the same show in a while, like Tai Chi and Zack Saber Jr.
Sid?
I enjoyed this match. I give it 3 stars. It was a good opening contest. The Suzuki-gun winning and the outcome with Dookie pinning YOSHI-HASHI, I was not happy with, because YOSHI-HASHI is one guy. I was in Hammerstein Ballroom last year for Fighting Spirit Unleashed with him versus Kenta for the Never Openweight Championship, and I was one of the, I think it was 1,500 there in attendance who booed YOSHI-HASHI out of the building because I was like, he's not the competitor I want to see out there. He's my least interesting person in New Japan. This G1 Climax 30, he was the most improved performer, the MIP of the G1 Climax. It was between him and Taishi, but Taishi has shown signs that he can be greater than he was. YOSHI-HASHI hadn't for me, and he showed it between the match with Evil, which was the first match where I felt like he really broke out. Then his matches with Tanahashi and Naito, he showed something that we hadn't seen from him. He showed a type of fire. And then you had guys like Kenta and Zack Saber Jr. showing their respect for him. So him losing to the least interesting member of Suzuki-gun kind of pissed me off. But I see that it might be something in the future that they're setting up with the Never Openweight 6-man tag team title. So I will agree with Tempest. Seeing the multi-man matches back was refreshing. That's another reason why we need to save the multi-man matches for maybe just the finals to build up to the big main event at the end, because it was very nice to kind of have that change of pace with the multi-man matches to start off the night. But I did enjoy this.
I cannot disagree with you, gentlemen, on this. I think that I will piggyback off of what you were saying now, Sid, about them leaving these multi-man matches for like the final night of the tours and stuff like that. They're just better suited. And mind you, this match meant a little bit more due to the creation of this feud now, right? Where I understand that you did not like Doki pinning YOSHI-HASHI, but it made him the outstanding third member of a possible 6-man tag with Tai Chi and Zack Saber Jr., because Despy is obviously an IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion at this moment. So it puts him in line to be part of that particular team there. If they go on to do that 6-man tag. Also, after the match was over, after Suzuki-gun beat Chaos, they continued to beat the crap out of Ishii all the way to the back. I didn't expect that at all, to be quite honest. Usually Hiroki Goto takes the beatings, but for Ishii to take the beating all the way into the back, into the freaking interview area and stuff like that, and it was just, I was surprised, man, surprised. I said this in one of my reviews, especially when it came to the Ishii versus Okada match, and how he's supposed to be the tough man of the team, and now all of a sudden he's getting either tapped out, knocked out, and he's getting the crap beat out of him, or whatever the case is. What the hell's happening to Ishii? Like what's going on with Ishii right now? He seems to be like the weakest member of the team instead of the strong man of the team.
I took offense to your
it.
comments on that match. I really enjoyed that match with Okada and Ishii, and that result kind of set up the Ishii and Jay White match even better because everyone expected Ishii to lose that match, and him overcoming what no one else had been really able to overcome with the interference from Gato and Jay White's switchblade antics. It made it more satisfying for Ishii to pull out that victory.
I mean, it made sense in that the one-on-one regard, but it's like, man, now he's getting the crap beat out of him again, and it's like, I don't know what's going on with Ishii right now, man. You know, this doesn't sit well with me. But I understand the setup here with the tag matches and how this is gonna go going forward. I'm not sure how this is going to set up Torujano in the future because, you know, he is a king of pro wrestling and he's got to have these gimmick matches and stuff like that. So I'm sure more things will come up for him in the coming days. But I enjoyed the match. I would say I gave it 3 stars as well. It ran for about 10 minutes or so, like per the usual on the first match of the night. And it was a good way to start the show. So to go on to the second match of the night, I was looking forward to this match just because Sid has made me drink the Hiromu Takahashi Kool-Aid. I missed Hiromu. I haven't been able to see him for a month. Being able to see him as a part of the B Block Finals just as he ran in to do the save for SANADA and just kick the head off of Dick Togo, yes, Dick Togo on the apron. It was refreshing to see him in the B Block Finals and here during the G1 Climax final tag match here with Shingo against. I thought this was a weird pairing of Suzuki-gun members, right? Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Minoru Suzuki. I just figured Suzuki would take Dookie in this match, being that.
Kanemaru, this is the older statesman of the Suzuki-gun.
Good point. And this match was as quick paced as it could be because it had Takahashi in it, and I always love that energy, man. And Takagi, man, who can say enough good things about Shingo Takagi? I mean, let's be real. This man can do it all at any time. It can be a short match. It can be a long match. It can be strong style. It can be technical. He can do it all. And the old man over there in the Suzuki-gun side, all praise to him. There's just nothing that I can say about the king, Minoru Suzuki. That is bad. And Yoshinobu Kanemaru, man, he's the quintessential long tenured wrestler, and he's gonna give you good action. He's going to give you whatever pace you want because he can still relatively go at his age. And it was just cool to see Takahashi and Takagi, members of Los Ingobernables de Japón, win this match against the members of Suzuki-gun after 11 minutes and 54 seconds. Takahashi hitting that time bomb on Kanemaru, obviously, never on the king. What did you think of this match, Sid?
I enjoyed this match. It's probably my favorite up until the main event of the evening. This was the strongest of all the tag team matches, and I was very happy to see Hiromu. Hiromu looked as happy as I was to see him. He looked as happy to be back in that ring, and I cannot stress enough that the MVP race for the G1 Climax 30 was as tight as the NBA's MVP. It was a tight one between Ishii, Suzuki, and Shingo Takagi. In my eyes, it's Shingo Takagi all the way. He had 2 of I think 3 or 4 5-star matches that I rated in this tournament between him and Osprey on night 5, him and Okada on night 13. Shingo Takagi impressed me the most. I've been a fan of his since the Dragon Gate ROH partnership in 2006, where I got to see him live at Hammerstein Ballroom. I've been a fan of him since then. I will always be a fan of his, but him being in New Japan has reignited my love for his work, and he just continues to impress me. And him and Suzuki, chef's kiss type of chemistry. It's just phenomenal anytime they're in the ring together.
It's unreal. Tell me, man, what about this tag match?
Well, yeah, when the card for this whole show came out, this was the match where I had to take a step back and go, ooh, looking forward to that one, you know. It always seems to be the placement of a match on the card in New Japan kind of dictates how much time, and this goes for all wrestling shows as well. But especially during something like the G1 Climax, you kind of get the sense of what matches are intended to do. And this was a match where if this was put in the main event of a show, this could be just like an absolute incredible show-stealing performance. But obviously, being second on the card, it's going to take a bit of a step back from other matches, given a bit more importance. That being said, I would agree with you, Sid, that I did think this was the second best match on the show. This was the one I was looking forward to the most, aside from the final, and it was the one that I enjoyed the most. I absolutely love both, really all the people involved, but Hiromu Takahashi and Shingo Takagi are two of my absolute favorite wrestlers in the world today. I can't say enough good things about them, whether it's the crazy charisma of Hiromu Takahashi. I don't know that there's too many people more charismatic in wrestling right now. And Shingo Takagi, I say all the time, is one of the most dynamic performers I've ever seen. You know, everything that he does is just so crisp and so quick. You know, there isn't any wasted motion from him, whether it's his selling or just his movements in the ring between different moves. Everything about it is just fantastic. We saw a great match between him and Suzuki at the Jingu show in the Open Stadium earlier this summer, and we're going to be seeing the rematch heading into Power Struggle, which I can't say enough good things about that. If I saw these two wrestle on every show, I would never complain. You know, seeing them wrestle again is very exciting, and it'll be interesting to kind of see where some of these different things go, because it doesn't appear that Hiromu is being positioned for another run with Taiji Ishimori and the IWGP Junior Championship. That's just not the direction it looked like, and it's been one match. You know, we haven't seen them in a little over a month, so I could be wrong. We could be seeing that match come back around, maybe for the Tokyo Dome, something like that. But it appears, at least for right now, that this duo is working with the Suzuki-gun faction. But again, we'll wait and see. But if this is the direction they're going, I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, I gotta agree with everything that Tempest said, which brings me to a question for both of you guys. Hiromu has to win the best of the Super Juniors, doesn't he? Like, I understand that doesn't look like the direction right now. It looks like it's going to be him and Bushi going after the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, but who else is there in the Junior Heavyweight division right now? Osprey's a heavyweight, Shingo's a heavyweight. That's our finals from last year. You got guys like, you know, outside the company, like Bandito. He's not well. He's dealing with the whole virus right now. So that's another guy that you can't put into that picture. Rocky Romero, maybe he had a great tournament last year. ELP to have more Bullet Club versus Bullet Club play, like we're seeing with Jay White versus Evil, maybe. But Hiromu Takahashi has to be the favorite going into the Best of the Super Juniors 27. What do you guys think?
Well, I agree. I agree. The junior heavyweight division has been really rocked in like the last year and a half to 2 years, whether it be Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi moving up to the heavyweight division, or the departures of guys like Kushida, who is, you know, a mainstay in the division for a long time. You know, there's been rumors going out recently that Dragon Lee is going to be heading away from Ring of Honor and everything. You know, we don't know what the situation is there, so there's tons of speculation, but at the same time, that may result in him not being involved in the tournament. You never know. And without these guys kind of involved, like you said, it would be really hard to get some of the CMLL guys in, especially just, you know, whether it be just for the sake of, you know, outside travel being, you know, really difficult given the pandemic, or even beyond that. You know, it's very difficult to see what this Best of the Super Juniors field is going to look like. And beyond that, who's going to win it? Like, I like the idea that you brought up of El Phantasmo possibly being a dark horse in this tournament, because I think we're heading in the direction of kind of like the Japanese Bullet Club and the foreigner Bullet Club. It looks like there's going to be some sort of, feud going on there between Jay White and Evil, and whether that involves kind of the splitting of the two factions. You could then see Taiji Ishimori going to the Japanese side, El Phantasmo going to the foreigner side. Just an idea, but otherwise, I think you're right. I think Hiromu has to be viewed as the favorite going in.
I feel like Hiromu and Bushi are going to go after those IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team belts. It's interesting you guys bring up LP, because if El Phantasmo comes back, then that means Robbie Eagles gets to come back as well. So he's another person that'll probably fit into the junior heavyweight, into the Best of Super Juniors tournament as well. There's a possibility of some of the young men who have been doing the New Japan Strong shows. I'm a big fan of Blake Christian. He's awesome to watch. I'm not sure if Alex, I think, is it Alex? I forget what his
Alex Zane.
There you go. I'm not sure if he's considered a junior at his weight, because he's kind of he's a bigger guy at this point, because he keeps on tacking on that muscle. But if he is under that weight consideration, then he can definitely come over to Japan and do some things just to hype up the tournament. But like you said, Tempest, I think the travel thing is also going to be a hindrance to some folks as well. Sid, to make a point, Bandito did make his return to CMLL action this past week, so he is past the virus stuff on his end. So there might be a possibility for him to come over and be a part of the Super Junior tournament as well. The first time I've heard the name of Dragon Lee or Ryu Lee in a long time.
I did not think of Ryu Lee. That was a good call by Tempest. I didn't even remember that he was a part of the New Japan and his great matches with Hiromu. I would love to see some more of that in the Best of the Super Juniors.
So he would definitely be a good addition to the Best of Super Juniors as well there. Maybe some other Mexican wrestlers if travel allows. And things of that nature. We did see the return of Amazing Red last year. Not sure how that's going to play out with travel here in New York, because he's a New York-based wrestler. Or if we'll see any other potential Super Juniors who might be in AEW make any appearances in New Japan. So it's all to be determined at this point. I'm not gonna sit on the side of the fence that Hiromu is a favorite to win the Best of Super Junior tournament here, because I feel he's like on the fence about what it is that he wants to do per se. I think he's on that side of whether or not he's gonna level up like everybody else has, or if he's gonna stay where he's been and be the mainstay at that junior division. But we'll see. Hopefully it turns out well. World Tag League as well is going to bring in a whole bunch of names we haven't seen in a while, or we've never seen, and stuff like that. So some of those guys might be pulling double duty and things of that nature between World Tag League and the Super Junior tournament. So we'll see and how that goes. But hopefully we get a good tournament for that month running, and it's going to be a whole lot of action to watch and call and everything in between, man. So looking forward to it. Third match of the night, another 8-man tag team match. Here we had the Bullet Club members. We had Gato, Taiji Ishimori, Kenta, and Jay White. It seems like those members of the Bullet Club get along so far against the hodgepodge of Hiroshi Tanahashi, Juice Robinson, Jeff Cobb, and Master Wato. Don't forget about Master Wato, Sid.
Dark horse.
Master Wato is a dark horse for that Boss J tournament because he's been spotlighted for the last 6 months. There's nothing else they can do at this point. I brought this up. I'll start off. I brought this up during my reviews of the A block with Jeff Cobb and how he started off real slow, and for whatever reason, just because of the way he was being booked and how his offense was being played out at the beginning of the G1 Climax tournament, I thought New Japan doesn't know what to do with Jeff Cobb. That's the way that I felt. But then after, I would say after he went 1-3 or whatever the case is, that's when he started to pick up the pace. And I was like, this is the Jeff Cobb I've been wanting to see in New Japan for 2 years now. Like, they're finally giving him the freaking chance. They're finally giving him the opportunity. That power game was strong. You know what I'm saying? So that was something that was cool to see out of the G1 tournament for Jeff Cobb. Same thing for Juice Robinson. A strong showing for Juice, even though Juice didn't have a points. But Juice had a strong showing this year. Terrific matches in the B block with Tanahashi, and good match with Evil, and the list goes on. I think about 4 or 5 good matches that he had. Wasn't like last year at all, where it just seemed like he was a little, like, for me, speaking for myself, I felt like he was a little deflated last year because he was like in between characters and he was just doing too much or whatever. And Tanahashi, man, what can you say? The man came at the beginning of the G130 Climax tournament. He dropped about 10 pounds, cut the weight down, and he went from start to finish. And Tana doesn't look like he's about to slow down. He's not the gatekeeper yet, and he wants to do what he wants to do. And Master Wato, yeah, what are we gonna say about Master Wato? Hopefully the kid impresses during the Super Junior tournament, because I think that'll be the telling for him. All these different tag matches and him being flanked by Hiroyoshi Tenzan, that's like filler at this point. Like that Super Junior tournament is going to be where we get to see his way to the Grand Master, because Wato needs to show up. Here, what happened? 9 minutes, 12 seconds. I can't necessarily say I saw anything of importance here from a storyline aspect, right? Because
so the setup for Tanahashi and Kenta for the
sort of, right,
for the briefcase, because that's now been official for Power Struggle.
For Power Struggle. So I had mentioned this in a previous recording where I didn't know who the first competitor for the briefcase was going to be, because it was surprising for me, Kenta's route in the B block and whatnot, because I was like, why is he losing so much? He just won this briefcase. I'm like, this doesn't make much sense.
You mentioned my 2 biggest disappointments on the B block. I called Kenta to win the entire B block, and once he lost to Tanahashi and he was 2-4, I was just like, no, what are they doing to my guy? But even a bigger disappointment than that is Tanahashi. Tanahashi, I know you said he doesn't look like he is ready to be the gatekeeper, but he's being booked like he's the gatekeeper.
Yeah, he is.
That was one of the main storylines of this entire G1 Climax, is the fact that the B block MVP to me by far was Tanahashi. Tanahashi was the B block MVP. He pretty much had everybody's best match in the block. He delivered every night. One of the best matches of the entire tournament was on night 2 against Naito. That was the old Tanahashi versus the old Naito. We saw the glimpse of those elite versions of each other against each other once again. That was beautiful, a fantastic match. But the treatment of Tanahashi should be in every G1 Climax up until the second to last night or the last night of the tournament. There's no reason why Goto defeated Tanahashi and eliminated him from winning the B block. That was my biggest disappointment of the entire G1.
Yeah, I mean, there were a bunch of the guys that were in this 8-man tag. I mean, as far as this match itself, I think beyond just the Tanahashi Jay White play, you see a lot more of the Bullet Club angle that, this is where it's going to kind of develop over the next couple of months, is the interplay between like tag team partners and things like that. Tanahashi, I do agree. Tanahashi is one of my absolute favorite wrestlers of all time, and seeing him kind of booked as like a man of secondary importance in this tournament was kind of disheartening. He had a few losses coming right out of the gate, and that's what kind of made the B block less enjoyable for me, is he was a guy that I really wanted, not necessarily to win, because I didn't think that was going to happen, but at least to see him do well and be competitive. And when he loses a couple of matches right out of the gate, one of which to Torujano, where he just doesn't look, made him look maybe dumb and impressive, losing to a guy who was basically blindfolded. I didn't think that did him any favors. And like you said, I want to see Tanahashi be competitive in these tournaments year in and year out. And I don't think that's too outrageous of a thing to ask for. It's not like he's at the very end of his career, and it's not like he's not performing. He's not doing this just based on name value. He's one of the best guys night in and night out, especially in the B block. There were maybe no one that could stand up to him quality-wise in terms of matches and everything. So I do agree with you there. I would like to see him take the briefcase from Kenta, because I think a match between Tanahashi and Moxley is much more... it's much more exciting a possibility than a match with Moxley and Kenta. That's if we get any of these matches at all. Obviously, there's a lot of politics and travel and whatnot involved. But that being said, there were other things in this match that, maybe not in this match per se, because, again, like we kind of said, this was a match of minimal importance, we'll say. But that being said, Jeff Cobb, I think, had a tournament that he needed after last year's G1, where not even just in his portrayal of how important he was, because he was still a Ring of Honor guy, and those kind of guys don't usually get a ton of big wins or anything like that in the G1 Climax. But last year, he didn't even really have any good matches. He had one with Ishii that was really good, but otherwise it was just a bunch of they were good, but you expect in the G1 to see great, and we didn't see great from him. This year, I felt we saw a number of matches from him that were great, and that was very important for a guy like Jeff Cobb, who is reportedly now signed on with New Japan, that we're going to be seeing him a lot more going forward. That's very exciting. And then again with Juice Robinson, he was in a very unique position the last few years. And I mentioned this going into the tournament on a number of the podcasts that we do over on Wrestle2, that he was a guy that I wanted to see step up and impress me. Because in 2018, he was that plucky underdog babyface. He had won the IWGP United States Championship from Jay White for the first time. It felt like he was kind of rolling. And then he was considered the loser of the B block that year. He only got maybe 3 wins. None of them were really all that impressive. And he was looked at as the guy who was the outlier of the group, that he had a bad tournament. And that was his storyline, which if you want to tell that story, that's fine. But the following year was, to me, even more damaging, because he wasn't the loser of the block. He just wasn't important at all. Right. He had already lost the U.S. title to Moxley, and he just kind of he was never involved. He was never super competitive. The only real standout match he had was on the final night against Moxley. And then coming in this year, he started off with 3 straight wins, and I was like, okay, yeah, Juice Robinson. He's actually putting it together this year, And then obviously he lost 5 matches in a row, which kind of took me out of that mindset a little bit, but there was a lot more involved with his tournament this year. His match with Naito I really enjoyed. It gave him that kind of, his reaction to losing that match was very good, because it was there. I said this on the podcast I do with Sana Lad, that there is different ways to sell losing a match like this, whether it be rage, whether it be just, disappointment, whatever. He looked like a guy who, he knew this match was a test for him. He was facing the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. If he wins this match, regardless if he wins the tournament, odds are he will get a title shot at some point. And this was a match that he didn't win, even though it was very good. And it felt like watching him realize that he's not at that next level yet, as much as he would like to be. So seeing that in this G1 was very interesting. I definitely liked seeing the different, maybe not the different character, but it was a different angle for him to take. And then of course we've got Master Wato in this match too, which I've been highly critical of, since his re-debut. And I don't think that's particularly unfair. A lot of people were saying things like, "Oh, you got to give him time." It might be an Okada situation where the debut was bad on purpose, and then you can go and have him shock people. And the longer this goes, it kind of reveals that wasn't the case. It was more just, no, this was just a lackluster kind of bad debut. I still think the character and the look is kind of goofy and kind of stupid. The blue hair, just, I don't know, the whole package of Master Wato. If he was having phenomenal matches night in, night out, and a really good presentation of him as a character, I could get beyond the look and everything. But when nothing really stands out in a positive way, everything else just compounds itself to make the whole thing that much worse. So maybe we'll see something in the Best of the Super Junior, but we're going to have to wait and see on that one.
He has his chance in the Best of the Super Juniors for sure, but I totally agree with you. Master Wato has not showed us anything to think that he could be potentially an Okada that can overcome a bad debut. I totally agree with everything you said about Juice. Most of all with Juice, I think that the restrictions and the way he's been so charismatic in getting a response from the fans really has made him stand out, especially in that B block. Even the matches that, weren't his best, he was able to get a reaction from the crowd with the clapping, his rhythmic clapping. Like, he just showed so much charisma in being one of the best baby faces in the promotion. I agree with you. I remember you on Witsuna on Wrestle 2 talking about Jeff Cobb, and I think I put in the comments to you guys, I was like, when Cobb versus Ishii, that will be the breakout, and it was Cobb's greatest match ever, the best Jeff Cobb match that I've ever seen from him, and I've been following him for a couple of years, from Matanza Cueto to now. I've been following this guy, so this was his apex. But he had a great match against Osprey, great match against Abushi, which should have been longer. That was the one match out of all the matches in the tournament, regardless of who was in it, the one match that I was like, man, if this was a little bit longer, this would have been one of the best matches of the entire tournament. That Cobb and Abushi was just phenomenal, and I loved every minute of it.
How anticlimactic the finish of that match was pissed me the hell off. And it was man, he's I'm glad that he had the kind of G1 Climax 30 tournament that he did, because it was important for New Japan to see, for the fans to see, for people who followed him to see that he's finally given some sort of a level of importance where he's at now. Like Tempest said, rumors have been, for whatever reason, New Japan hasn't officially said anything yet, but that Jeff Cobb has signed with them. I even said it in one of my recordings and shit. He's going to be pulling double duty on New Japan proper and New Japan in the USA. So that's at least a word. Yeah, man. But to get back to Juice, like, I thought that this tournament was a good showing for Juice. Like Sid said, good energy from Juice, a good way for him to get the crowd involved all the time. He had the fans behind him, good baby face appeal, and things of that nature. So here I think Tanahashi ended up hitting the Texas Clover hole, as they call it in New Japan, on Gato. And that team won that particular match there. Then the fourth match of the night. Okay, so the fourth match of the night, Sho and Okada versus the Great Okan and Will Ospreay.
So one thing I will say, and I know probably Tempest heard this as well, but I listened to Wrestling Observer Radio after the finals, and apparently Great Okan was not supposed to be Great Okan. That Jeff Cobb was supposed to be in the Great Okan spot. And I love the angle on the A Block finals, but it immediately made me disappointed, because I was like, Jeff Cobb would have made such a better Great Okan than Great Okan. Oh my God. And this matchup right here, I was like, I saw Great Okan in Rev Pro. Right. And when I saw him in Rev Pro, I didn't realize he was Oka from the Young Lions. I saw a completely new guy. Yeah. I wasn't impressed by him, right, but the look was just like, okay, I saw a completely different guy. I didn't even know he was a Young Lion. When I saw this match, I was like, oh, he is a Young Lion. He still has some work to do. That's how I felt watching this matchup.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you watched the live reactions on both the A Block final and the G1 Climax final, You know that my partner in crime, Andy Dadson, is no fan of the Great Okan, and we'll see what happens going forward. But I think we were kind of spoiled for a while seeing a number of these young lions return as like really fully well-rounded wrestlers and everything. Jay White, when he returned, was fantastic. Obviously he's gotten much better since then, but even coming back, he was really great. Same thing with like Sho and Yo and guys like that. But the double whammy of like Master Wato coming back and his presentation not being great, and Great Okan coming back and again his presentation not being great, you get the sense that, yeah, these guys are still maybe not green, but they're still figuring their things out. And this was a match where you get the sense of where we're kind of going next. I think obviously we're going to be building to a match with Okada and Osprey in the Tokyo Dome. That seems like the most logical destination for this, at least in the short term. Mm-hmm. But you're right, seeing hearing that and knowing that we could have the partnership of Will Ospreay and Jeff Cobb going against Okada as the foundation of a new faction in New Japan, that would be much more enticing than what we've got going on right now. It just kind of feels like a mishmash of I don't know what Ospreay and Great Okan have in common besides a Rev Pro connection. Obviously, it's still very early, and we will hopefully get some explanation for this going forward. But still, I don't know, they don't mesh together after just one or two shows of seeing it together. So, we'll have to wait and see. But this is kind of a swing and a miss, at least at the start for Great Okan. Will Ospreay turn very good. Happy with it so far. But everything else, I'm just kind of we'll have to wait and see.
I love this turn so much, I will say. I would say it was on the level of the Gato turning on Okada for me, because it just reunited my passion for Will Ospreay, because my girlfriend is a huge Will Ospreay fan. That's one of the main reasons she will watch New Japan with me over any other promotion, is because she has such an affection for Will Ospreay. And watching the match, when Great Okan comes in, interferes, and then Ospreay hits the Stormbreaker, that's the first time I ever heard my girlfriend just out of nowhere say, "Not like this, not like this." And, she was just she was so betrayed. But she said also she was the first person, I think it was the matchup against Yujiro, and I was like, "Hey, Will's on." She was like, "Oh, for real?" And she was like, "He's acting really cocky. Is he a heel now?" And I was like, and I told her when that whole heel turn happened, I was like, "You were the first one that told me he was showing signs of this the entire tournament." So it was very much you could see this was the plan from the beginning of the G1 to now, and that's why I love the angle. I love that matchup as well. That was probably my favorite matchup from the A block finals. I think I gave it 5 stars on Sportskeeda, but that was only because of the overall with the shock heel turn. I think the match itself is probably 4.5, 4 3/4, but with the heel turn and what it means for the future, and the fact that I called Okada to win the entire A block, I was partly disappointed with the outcome, but at the end of the day, I was also happy, because it was I had Okada winning the A block, because I was like, what is Okada supposed to do if he's not in the title picture? Because that's the point we've reached with Okada, and this gives him something outside of the title picture. So I very much am a fan of this.
So let's talk about this, Sid, because you did call Okada to win the A block, and I said that Will Ospreay wouldn't get the rub, right, from Okada. He didn't get the clean rub because he got the win.
But he got the rub.
He got the rub.
He's the top. I would say he's the top heel. He's right up there with Switchblade right now. Sure. I think we all of us, being New Japan fans, and a lot of the people watching this video being New Japan fans, you kind of see in the outlier, the way of beyond, Switchblade is kind of forming into a babyface, because he is so He's so good at being a heel. He just the little things like making fun of the people for not cheering. It's not getting boos. It's not getting that visceral reaction. It's people like really celebrating the fact that he's so good. So I think that they have switched roles. That now Will's gonna be the top heel gaijin and Switchblade is gonna become the top babyface gaijin.
I feel like I it's not out yet, but during my night 17 and 18 review of this, I said in the video that Will Ospreay is one of the better heels I've seen when he's in heel character within the last 5 to 7 years. His work in Progress against Jimmy Havoc, his stuff with Paul Robinson as Swords of Essex, like the kid is good, and people do not give him that credit from a character standpoint. We know what he can do in the ring. He's amazing. He's fantastic. He's the aerial assassin. But his mic work, his ability to do heel stuff, like, dude, I get pissed off when he does heel shit. And I'm like, God damn it, Will, what the hell is going on? Why would you do such a thing? And that moment when he hit Okada with the hidden blade, I was like, oh man, like that's just tragedy waiting to happen right there. And the turn sold me. I was like, we're gonna get some of the best Will Ospreay we have ever seen in New Japan with this heel turn. To piggyback off of what Tempest was saying about Great Khan, I've watched a couple of his matches on Rev Pro as well. He's not an impressive guy. First time I'm hearing that Uncle Dave had said something in the light of Jeff Cobb being in that Great Khan role with Will Ospreay, anything like that. That would have been amazing. Jeff Cobb as the heater and Will Ospreay as the mouthpiece. It was like, that would have been great. Would have been fantastic. But I think that they're going to use this Empire stable faction, whatever you want to call it, to start incorporating the early signs of cross-promotional stuff between Stardom and New Japan, in a sense. As you saw, they brought B in, but yesterday during the post-match conference was the first time I had seen B show her Stardom Championship on the air. And I was like, okay, so this is a good sign. I want to see how Bushiroad develops the cross-promotional stuff, how they're going to do it, if it's going to just be like a big super show for the year, or if women are going to be more involved and vice versa, and things of that nature. As for the Empire faction itself, I feel like Will's going to take on non-name guys in that faction. It might be guys who used to be young lions who are out on excursion, guys who are just newly signed to New Japan and stuff like that, who aren't from the dojo system and things of that nature. Like, people who have specific axes to grind, in a sense, against, I guess, the New Japan system in a way where people were outcasted and sent away and things of that nature. It just seems like that. Or it can be what Kevin Kelly was playing up during commentary, where the certain members of the faction represent, quote unquote, I'm not sure how this is going to play over in our times now in 2020, but like guys who represent like old dynastic empire kind of historically, like culturally and stuff like that. Like they were talking about Okan representing that Mongolian and having to do with Genghis Khan and Will Ospreay being from the UK and representing, the British Empire, and let's not mention colonialism and a whole bunch of other so
I would still like Cobb to be in that group, because it would be a sign that they have plans for him in the future. And with New Japan, as we saw, every top star has to be a heel first. Okada, Naito, Nakamura before them, Kenny Omega, and I think that with Will, they are positioning him to be that one of those top guys in the future. But I think putting Cobb in this group will help him out as well. It would be better for him to join this whole entire group where he can help shape the culture for this new group with Osprey, with Great Khan, with B Priestley, and I think that would be like the best move for him as well.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
And they did also say that B Priestley is going to work the New Japan bigger shows, but she's still working for Stardom full time.
Gotcha. So with this here, I'm not sure if anybody hit off the results, but Will Osprey got the win here with the figure 4 leg lock on Show after working over Show's right knee in this particular match. The fifth match of the night, I was looking forward to this because I missed Bushi. Bushi, one of my favorite guys to watch enter an arena with whatever the hell he's wearing. His entrance, Bushi's just he's very dynamic in that sense. Bushi and the double champ Tetsuya Naito, Los Ingobernables de Japón versus members of the Bullet Club, Yujiro Takahashi and Evil. So we're still working on this whole Evil and Naito feud. Not to say that it's a bad thing. But at this point, it's like, are they going to continue to trade back and forth with the straps? Is it just more of an elongated storyline thing? Do they not feel like anyone else is necessarily worthy of taking on Naito at this point? Because some of this stuff can drag, and Evil, for me as a character, sometimes gets a little dry when he does stuff for an elongated period of time. So depending as to where they want to go with this, it's up in the air for me. The only thing I would want to mention is Yujiro Takahashi, right? The last 3 matches Yujiro Takahashi had in the A block were some sort of I don't know. They were transcendent in a sense because he finally impressed me after God knows how many years of watching Yujiro. And I no longer I'm no longer on the end of, you know, if Peter's not there, we don't care with Yujiro type deal. He brought something different to the table. He's part of that whole dynamic of that dissension between the Japanese and the foreigner side of the Bullet Club. He was the one who basically didn't lay down for Jay White in a sense because he wanted to get a win, and everything in between that. So there's finally some depth to Yujiro now, and that's a good thing. So him being paired with Evil here, and, you know, being flanked by Dick Togo as per the usual.
Had every Switchblade fan like, Yujiro and Evil teaming together. Yeah. Yes, I did like that move. I will agree with you. Yujiro looked good in his last couple of matches. Like Tempest said earlier, the A block finals were just more entertaining than the B block finals because Yujiro had a match that mattered. Mattered for once. That if he beat Cobb, Osprey was still in it, which made the 3 last matches even more important. That's why I enjoyed the finals as well more than the B block finals. But I will say Yujiro looked good in that match against Cobb, not only getting the victory, but he showed a little bit more fire, the same fire that he showed against Kota Ibushi, I think a couple of nights prior to that. So I will say the match with Jay White was an angle more than a match, but it really dictated how he was for the other matches for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. The Evil Yujiro setup in this match is very interesting because we saw the Yujiro and Jay White relationship was really tested, obviously in the A block, and kind of similarly, not to the extreme that it was done with Jay White and Yujiro, but we saw kind of the same thing with Evil and Kenta in the B block.
Yeah.
You know, they had a match. They didn't do the too sweet. Kenta was kind of like pushed to the side, you know, in that match. So it's kind of interesting seeing where the battle lines are being drawn in a potential Bullet Club conflict. That being said, a match like this, you know, you didn't want to say that it's necessarily a bad thing that Naito and Evil are going back to each other. I'll say it. I'm not looking forward to this at all. You know, we have seen them wrestle 3 times since July, or since June, I should say, and most of them have not been all that good at all. The Jingu show, I would say that was a good match. It was not a great match. You know, obviously their Dominion match was it was the lowest rated match by Dave Meltzer for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship since the title had been consistently reviewed. And that was going back to like 2011, 2012. So you kind of get the sense that these two might not have that big main event style match together. I personally think that Evil is miscast right now. And I think he comes across as more of a star now than he did in Los Ingobernables de Japón. He's being pushed as more of a star. But in the ring, I felt like he did a much better job as that kind of baby face, that the tweener leaning baby face, especially in last year's G1, where he was having like incredible matches with guys like SANADA, guys like Abushi, guys like Tanahashi. And obviously I feel like he was in the stronger block last year. But his matches are just really focused on interference now, which is what Bullet Club is kind of leaning on now. But still, I'm not excited when I hear that Evil is going to be wrestling in a main event with Naito again, especially after the most recent match, which again was just kind of like, all right, that was a match. Did I need to see it again? Probably not. Do I need to see it another time? I really don't.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have preferred Kenta. Kenta, out of the people that beat him, I would have preferred Kenta to get another crack at Naito. But I agree with you. Evil and Naito have had 3 matches this year, and only one of them was even decent. It was good. I would say, the Janku main event was good. The Dominion match was way too long. The G1 match it felt longer than it was. And
it did.
I'm not too interested in it. I think it's, if Naito doesn't win here, then we're in for a long Wrestle Kingdom if we're main eventing with Ibushi versus Evil or Evil versus Jay White. And I think that was another thing that with how the G1 works with having A block and B block, Jay White was having the better type of Evil matches. Like he had interference heavy matches, but he is so good as a heel. He's so good with his smooth transition, his counter work, his reversals, and he's just facial expressions. Everything he does it better than Evil. So that hurt Evil's matches.
Yeah. I can't disagree there. You just put it out there without saying it, Sid. So I'm gonna say it transparently. Jay White's the better wrestler. So at this point, that's what we're saying. That's what we're talking about. There's no doubt in my mind, or no doubt about it, that Jay White is the quintessential leader of the Bullet Club. There's just no, like before, like when Evil did the turn, we were like, oh, is it gonna be Evil? Is it gonna be Jay White? What about Kenta? No, Jay White's the leader of the Bullet Club. End point. You know what I'm saying? The dissension that's been developing within the Bullet Club, between the Japanese side and the foreigner side, there's a little bit of a lean, not necessarily of dissension, but like breakaway from certain other guys in factions. I'm saying that leading into the main event because there was something specific that Kevin Kelly said during the main event that I had heard in somewhere previously, where Ibushi said that he wanted to face Seiya Sanada, the actual person, not this character, this Cold Skull character, and not that Sanada hates Naito or is not the brother of all the other members of LIJ, but he's a standout guy now because he doesn't have to be flanked by Evil anymore. And he beat Naito in the tournament. So with Evil gone and him doing whatever he's doing with the Bullet Club, and Naito not necessarily having another person to, face off of or whatever, does Sanada stay with LIJ? Does Sanada break off at this point? Does he become his own person? And I bring that up because within the Bullet Club thing, like you said, Sid, it just seems like, there's no doubt there's dissension between Bullet Club members, but it's like, does Jay White need the Bullet Club anymore? Does he need Gato anymore? And stuff like that. That's an important storyline to follow there, because I don't feel like Jay White needs the Bullet Club. He's the star. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't need Gato. He doesn't need Gato hanging a little freaking switchblade chain on his hand for an entrance. He doesn't need that shit anymore. He just really doesn't. And also to mention, Kenta is another guy where I'm speaking for myself, which I don't feel he needs the Bullet Club. There's no real appeal for Kenta being a part of the Bullet Club at this point, or whatever. For me, at least.
I think Kenta would be better off with Gato in his corner. Do
you feel like Kenta needs to be flanked though? I don't feel like he needs to be flanked.
I think he does. I think it would add a little bit something to Kenta because I don't know. Kenta needs something that makes him different from the Kenta that we saw in Pro Wrestling Noah, in Ring of Honor, in NXT. I think he just needs that little something to him, but at the end of the day, he's different from all of those guys in the ring. He's not the same guy that he was in Pro Wrestling Noah or in the ROH days. But he needs that kind of presence, kind of difference in presentation. So I think that Gato would add to that. But I agree with you. Switchblade doesn't need to be flanked anymore. Switchblade can stand on his own. He can do his own thing. I also agree that maybe SANADA can break off into LIJ, but I like him kind of being under the LIJ banner for a little while longer, just a little while.
I hear you. But to cap on the match, 14 minutes, 14 seconds, Evil put the Scorpion Deathlock on Bushi. We spoke about it. The Evil and Tetsuya Naito are going to have a match coming up in Power Struggle. We mentioned Yujiro Takahashi's work going forward, but we're here to talk about this next match. This next match is what made the entire tournament. It's what made the entire night. It put a smile on my face. Damn it! To quote something that I heard a long time ago, it put a tear in my eye. It started off Kota Ibushi versus SANADA. G1 Climax 30 final. The match went 35 minutes and 12 seconds of just, I didn't know how the match was going to go. I didn't know how they were going to book this. I didn't know if one person was going to be favored over another. I got what I wanted. I got SANADA in the finals. That's what I wanted. If he didn't win, it didn't matter to me at this point. They finally put the freaking, they finally put him in the right path. And it was against the right guy. I thought that it should have. In my head, I figured that it should have been Okada, but he had all those wins against Okada the last 2 years already. And now that they're building towards, and this is my personal opinion, they're building towards Kota Ibushi winning either the double strap or the IWGP Heavyweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom. That's what this is what this build feels like to me. And to put SANADA in a match against Ibushi before Ibushi becomes champ, because he's gonna be champ like that. There's just no doubt about it in my mind. Ibushi's gonna be champ at some point. And be able to show that SANADA can hang with Ibushi was special to me, just because Ibushi's in a class of his own as a wrestler. He's not comparable to anyone else. He has his own style. He's able to wrestle anyone else's style, which was the storyline during the G1 tournament. He was wrestling all of his competitor style matches. He wasn't wrestling his match per se, and he was able to win through. And I thought that SANADA was excellent here, man. He's playing up the babyface stuff awesomely. His connection with the fans, like you said, Sid, basically doing the whole Fireflies Bray Wyatt thing or whatever, but with his own little flair, his own little style and whatnot, basically having like a little sit down moment with the folks, just taking and relaxing and just talking to people or whatever. I think that's super smooth, which is who SANADA is. SANADA's like the smoothest dude on the planet. So that was cool to see. Man, I enjoyed this match from beginning to end, just because I felt like at least the storyline was that SANADA was automatically going to have the upper hand because Ibushi came in hurt, and SANADA should have won this match because Ibushi was hurt. But at the end of it all, Ibushi wins because SANADA is still not ready yet, right? And I say that because that was Ibushi's line. But Sanada's ready. This was just more of, let's see what he does in the main event picture in the grandest tournament of all wrestling tournaments, and see how it goes. And shit, it went well, to say the least. And so I enjoyed it, man. No, I'm not rioting here. There's just no freaking way. At the end of the day, Sanada and Ibushi, two of my favorite guys in New Japan currently, and for the last couple of years, it was just good to see something fresh, something new. No Tanahashi, no Naito, no Okada. Thank you, New Japan, for this match. What did you guys think?
Go ahead, Tempest.
Well, it was interesting to me because the last few years, the winner of the tournament, I really felt like that was their tournament. Last year, I really felt like the 2019 G1 Climax was Ibushi's tournament. Like, beginning to end, he had a couple losses in the beginning, but then just rattled off big win after big win, culminates in a big match with Okada, then another big match with Jay White. I felt like that was his tournament. This year, it was kind of interesting where it never felt like any one particular guy's tournament. Right. And maybe that's just because the A block was super stacked and everyone was very much alive going into the final night. But it didn't feel to me at any point that this was like Ibushi's year, quote unquote. And that goes, leading into the tournament as well. Because I felt like it was Ibushi's year in all of 2019. He had a very, not standard storyline going into the tournament, but it seemed like he was having, a big year. He had the IWGP Intercontinental Championship win, lost that title, which put him into the picture to win the tournament, potentially in 2019. This year, he didn't really have much of that. I thought that he was going to be, lined up for a big singles match with Tanahashi in the Tokyo Dome. Obviously doesn't look like that's going to be happening now, but regardless, I still thought that this match was really good. I didn't love it as much as many other people that I've seen about it. I still would say it was obviously the best match on this show. I would still say that it was a very, very good match, a great match. But I thought that Ibushi looked like he kind of got knocked loopy a little bit early on. Mm-hmm. And whether that was great selling, or whether he actually just took the bump on the head and was a little bit out of it going forward, it looked like he was really nursing like his knee and everything. He was having a hard time standing by the end of it. And when Andy Datson and I were doing our live reactions, it kind of took us out of things a little bit. And a lot of people were saying, oh, is this just really good selling? And we were just kind of saying, well, we're being taken out of the match a little bit now. Yeah, and by the end of it, it's different.
There was genuine concern there because I was even when I was watching the match, I was like, this is a little off-putting. You know what I'm saying? Because if you got knocked in the head, you might want them to stop the match for a little bit here and see if he's all right. So I get it.
Yeah. But by the end, it all came together by the end, and I do enjoy seeing Sanada in this position. As we kind of said earlier, it was time for someone to throw him a bone. Give him the chance to really break out in a really big match. And that's what this was. I don't know what that's going to mean for him going forward. Obviously, he's not going to be in a tag, position anymore. But hopefully that gives him a chance to really break through. Maybe. It depends what they want to do with the double championship. But I could see a big match like with Naito on night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom. Now that the show is going to be a 2-night show. Have the match with Ibushi on night 1, and then have Naito face Sanada in just a rematch. Maybe a title's on the line, maybe not. You never know. It all depends on how things go. But that will kind of indicate where they're looking at positioning Sanada going forward. But with Ibushi winning, I had no problem with that. I kind of ranked who I thought was going to win the tournament beforehand on WrestleTalk.com, and Ibushi I had very close to the top. I didn't have him winning, but I wouldn't have been surprised seeing it. So having that go ahead and be the case, I have no problem with.
I agree with Tempest 100%. Like 2019, it felt like it was Ibushi's time. I called Ibushi to win the Max 28, and Tanahashi came out of nowhere and had that magical run to win that tournament. So I was like, no, Ibushi's got to win the G1 Climax 29, and he did that. 2017, it was the same thing with Tetsuya Naito. It was like Naito's got to win this tournament, and and then 2016, Kenny Omega surprised everyone by winning that tournament because Gaijins don't really win tournaments. That's why I had to wear his T-shirt. mainly because his golden lover, won this tournament, and it was just a surprise to me because we did the G1 Climax preview for our channel, and we both talked about can Ibushi win back to back. That's not something that New Japan does too often. It's been 15, 16 years since the last person who won it back to back in Tenzan. So it was a surprise to me that Ibushi was in the finals. But once we knew he was in the finals, I knew he was going to win. I was like, SANADA got the big win by winning the B block, but this needs to be Ibushi because the bigger matchup is Naito versus Ibushi. We saw it last year. Their trilogy last year, which was dangerous as hell, which a lot of people by the third match at Dominion was like, please end this feud before these guys kill each other. Now imagine those two guys in the Tokyo Dome. I was like, I don't know whether to fear this match or just be excited, because I was very much excited for them to meet in the New Japan Cup last year. I was even more excited, you were there with me, J-News, to see them at MSG for the Intercontinental Championship, and that was one of the best matches that I saw live last year, and I was able to see Gargano versus Cole. I was able to see Okada with a great babyface performance against Switchblade, but the best match I saw WrestleMania 35 weekend was Ibushi versus Naito in MSG. It was amazing. But by that third match at Dominion, with them dropping each other on their heads multiple times, I was like, okay, these guys never need to verse again. You need to end this feud. I don't want to see them in the G1 Climax finals this year. I don't want to see it. But now it's been enough time. We've had enough time away, which this feels like an even bigger matchup. And then hearing Ibushi's comments during the press conference of it has to be Naito. This is the kind of the rivalry they built up from the last couple of years in the G1 to their trilogy last year to now versing in the biggest spot ever. And it fits kind of New Japan's formula of they like to kind of present these potential Wrestle Kingdom main events at Dominion the year prior. And they did that, with Okada and they've done it in the past, so this is kind of New Japan formula to get there. But this was a surprise that Ibushi made it into the finals. But this match, just talking about this match in a nutshell, this was a very good match, borderline great match, mainly because of the last 10 minutes. The last 10 minutes was a fantastic finishing sequence, one of the closest near falls in professional wrestling history with the Okada Bridge. The fact that the Okada Bridge got that type of reaction, that was one of the 3 times I said this weekend that the fans forgot that they're not supposed to scream and and gas, was that Okada roll, because Ibushi waited to 2.99 seconds to get his shoulder up. There's a GIF out there. If you haven't seen the GIF, go out your way to see that GIF of that near fall, because it's the greatest near fall in professional wrestling history. And that's why I gave this match 4.5 stars, because I was coming off of the high of watching the match and seeing one of my favorite wrestlers, Ibushi, get the victory. I gave it 4.5 stars on Sportskeeda. On this review, I'll go a little bit more down and I'll give it 4 stars because it was memorable. It was a great match. And Ibushi had a great babyface effort. I will agree with you guys. Him potentially having concussion kind of took away from the matchup because it was kind of scary, because I think it was on the spot where SANADA went for the drop kick, and he's supposed to slide just under him smoothly, but SANADA like comes down and they connect heads, and you can kind of see he was loopy on the outside for a little bit, and that kind of threw you off for the rest of the match. But by the time we got to the finishing sequence, this was amazing. It was back and forth, two of the best, smoothest wrestlers in the business today. I loved this match, and I loved Ibushi getting the victory back to back. He says he's not a golden god yet, but he will be one when he wins at Wrestle Kingdom. I agree with you, J-News. Ibushi's got to win this year. The mini tournament to decide the double champion robbed him of his chance last year. This year is his year to win it at the Tokyo Dome.
At the Tokyo Dome, Wrestle Kingdom 15, we will see Kota Ibushi reach God level. That's right, Dragon Ball references. God level. Ibushi will be live and uncut at Wrestle Kingdom 15. Man, listen, if this is the first year that I covered every single night of the G1 Climax 30 tournament for the True Heel Heat YouTube channel, keeping in mind how long the G1 lasts for, right? And everything that happens, all the developments, the match breakdowns and stuff like that. Because I said this before, Sid's recall is way greater than mine. 2019 is such a blur. I don't remember the majority of the stuff that happened in 2019. Like, people will say, oh man, but did you remember that match between Ishii and Jeff Cobb? What match? I don't recall. People said it was great. I don't remember it. I knew I watched it because we spoke about it, but I don't remember it. You know what I'm saying? But today, the match between Ibushi and SANADA is gonna sit with me for two particular reasons. Obviously, because SANADA's on a good path. Two, because of the greatest false finish I've ever seen in my life, that O'Connor Bridge freaking kick out. I even jumped out of my freaking bed when I was like, oh my god. I was like, this can't be happening. It was just, and not even just the rest of reactions, the look on Red Shoes Uno's face was something to behold, because he couldn't even believe it, and he knew he was the one with the 2 count. I was like, wow. It was just, oh man, I can't wait to see as to what happens with SANADA, because SANADA does not have a match coming into Power Struggle at all. To break down Power Struggle quickly here, the matches were already revealed and released. It's going to be Zack Saber Jr. versus Torujano. We also have the match for the Never Openweight Championship between Shingo Takagi and the King Monaro Suzuki. We also have the one-on-one matchup here. Will Osprey said if Kazuchika Okada wants a piece of him, he has to go through the Great Okan. So it's going to be the Great Okan versus Kazuchika Okada. And then we have the match for that IWGP US Heavyweight Championship certificate, whatever Kevin Kelly likes to call it.
the right to contract. It's
the right to contract. It's going to be Tanahashi versus Kenta. And then we have the first challenger to the double champ certificate as well, because Jay White's going to be facing Kota Ibushi, and I believe the contract's on the line for this particular match. And the event of the night, the match we do not want to see. It's going to be Naito versus Evil yet again for the double straps. I'm not sure how this is gonna go necessarily. I hope that Naito retains. There's just no, like, my whole thing is that what's the possible sense of having Evil go over it here? Like,
the only way it makes sense is if Jay White beats Evil, Ibushi. Right? Yeah, no, if Jay White beats Abushi, then we have an all Bullet Club main event. But I don't want to see that. I don't think they need the titles to have that all Bullet Club matchup at the Tokyo Dome. But I do think that after this night, we're going to know the main event for Wrestle Kingdom, because typically Power Struggle is the show that at the end you get the challenger and the champion in the middle of the ring to promote Wrestle Kingdom. And the fact that World Tag League and Best of Super Super Juniors are after it. There's really no room besides maybe the final night of those tournaments to have another right to contract matchup, even though based on the right to contract history, that would mean Kota Ibushi versus Shingo, and I'm all for them to go at it again. If you're gonna break from tradition and have a right to contract match on that night, give us Shingo versus Ibushi. I don't mind.
I think the only other thing that I would want to mention, especially when it has to come to the main event for the Power Struggle show, being like I said, the SANADA doesn't have a match in this show, is the overbooking of it, right? How the interference gets to play out for the main event. Does SANADA come in for the save yet again? Does he help out Naito in this case? And then the stare down goes where it's Naito, SANADA face to face. That secondary storyline, as Tempest mentioned before. Maybe if Ibushi wins his match against Jay White, it'll be Ibushi versus Naito on night 1 for Wrestle Kingdom, and it might be SANADA versus Naito or whoever the champion is at that time for night 2. Who knows? But that, I think that's something to look out for as well. Here, I don't expect Jay White to beat Ibushi, because if Jay White beats Ibushi, what the hell was the point of the G1 Climax 30 tournament anyways? You know what I'm saying? So
basically,
so that's my take on all that.
But I think we all agree the match of the night for the G1 Climax 30 finals was the main event.
Sure.
Unanimous.
Yeah. I would say
absolutely.
So.
MVP, I am gonna go with the winner, Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi deserves to be the MVP of this show. Tempest, who you got?
I would have to agree. I mean, there's only one really big singles match, and there's only going to be one winner of that big singles match. I think Ibushi is your MVP, not necessarily of the entire tournament, but definitely of this night.
News?
Yeah, I usually agree with you, Sid. You know what I'm saying? Ibushi did his thing.
You're going to be biased, aren't you?
I'm going to be so fucking biased right now. SANADA is finally where he needs to be, regardless of the outcome of this match. He's the MVP for me of this match, just of the night, should I say, just because he got there. He finally fucking got there. And that, to me, said it all. And it's not even a participation trophy. 35 minutes and 12 seconds of a freaking match. That was really, really good. It could have
one climax match of all time.
By
12 seconds.
Right. Could the match have been a little better? If take the head bump out of the match, and we're probably saying something different, right? Take the possible concussion out of the match, and we're probably saying something different. But I'm sure that this isn't going to be the last time we see Ibushi versus SANADA. That's just me saying that, and him being able to bring that match where both styles are so clean but yet unique. You know what I'm saying? They play to different styles so well. Yeah, man, it was something for me to enjoy. I thought that SANADA being in the final was necessary just for the freshness, the newness of it. I've been saying this since the beginning of the year. New Japan needs new stars, new guys on top. And that's why I feel like SANADA is the MVP, not because obviously because of my bias, but on top of everything else, because of what it lends to the rest of the roster at that point,
Yeah.
So I'll go with that.
LVP, I am going to go with co-LVP for our returning young lions of Master Wato and the Great Okan.
Jesus Christ.
Who you got, News?
LVP. Shit. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the Great Okan. I am not gonna I'm not gonna continue to give Wato grief. I think Wato's getting better, match by match. But this Great Okan kid, yeah, I don't see it. I don't understand it. He was out there and he just he screwed the pooch, man. That's the only way.
And I did enjoy. I didn't give a lot of star ratings on the show because most of the tag matches were like 3 stars.
Yeah.
At most, I would give the LIJ versus Suzuki-gun tag team matchup, probably 3.5. But like I said, 4 stars for the main event. But that match probably should have been a little bit better. But Great O'Khan hold it back. But
yeah. The only other thing I would have to say is, how is it that you're a young lion who's coming back to New Japan and you look better giving a choke slam in a suit than your proper wrestling is beyond me. You know what I'm saying?
I would have preferred if he just stayed in the suit. You should have got Osprey and Priestley versus Show and Okada. I would have been all for that.
Go.
Yeah, I would have been all for that. Would have been all for that. Tempest, who's your LVP?
Honestly, I'm going to go a bit of a different direction here. I'm going to go YOSHI-HASHI, just based on, like, you know, he had this tournament where he didn't really get any wins until, like, he got one at the beginning and one at the end, but otherwise he didn't have a very successful tournament. Had some good matches, but still was positioned as the loser of the block. And then he comes out first match afterwards and gets pinned by Doki. So I don't know, just kind of like the presentation of him, he's still looked at as the weakest link of chaos, and it'll be interesting. I don't know if he can break out of that position, but on this night anyway, I'm gonna say that he was my loser of the show.
That is fair. Like I told you, I was disappointed to see that, but we gotta put our thumbs in the middle, gentlemen, and then on 3 we'll give this show a thumbs up or thumbs down. News. All right, 1, 2, 3. All 3 thumbs up for the G1 Climax 30 finals. I think that is a lot due to that main event. For better or worse, that was the best matchup and a great performance by Abushi and SANADA. Quickly, gentlemen, give the fans, the people, the viewers at home, your top 3 must-watch matches from the G1 Climax 30. We will start with you, Tempest.
Well, it's hard to narrow it down to just 3 matches, but if I'm going to name 3 that you need to go out of your way to see, I'm going to go with, first is Kota Ibushi versus Minoru Suzuki from day 13. I thought that was the match of the entire tournament. One of the best matches of the entire year. Second, another match that took place on the same night, I'm going to go with Kazuchika Okada versus Shingo Takagi. Again, another fantastic match. We didn't really talk about it here, but I didn't think that Okada had as good of a tournament as we've seen from him in years past.
Agreed.
You know, I think his reliance on his money clip submission had a lot to do with that. Not a fan of it. As people that have seen me on Wrestle2 would know, I kind of talk about it on every show. But otherwise, I still thought that was by far his best match of the tournament, one of the best matches of the tournament as a whole. And then finally, Will Osprey and Shingo Takagi, the rematch of the Best of the Super Juniors from last year. I think those 3, if I have to narrow it down, are the 3 matches that I will probably go back and watch the most often going forward. And they're the ones that I would recommend to others as much as possible.
Love it. Love it. Probably the 3 I would have picked, so I'm going to need more time to think of my 3. J-News, what's your 3 must-watch matches from the G1 Climax?
I'm just going to mention the match itself, SANADA versus Abushi. I think it's necessary for folks to see and understand where SANADA's, how long it's been and where SANADA's come from and where he got to. That match versus Ibushi basically spotlights SANADA's ability to be able to hold it down in the main event picture, and it gives people it clues people in as to just how big of a star SANADA can be. I am gonna go a little bit off the beaten path here. Another match that I think that people need to see. The match which I said was too short, but people still need to see it. Kota Ibushi versus Jeff Cobb. That match reintroduced the power game. Blessed be the power game of Jeff Cobb. Because, dude, some of my favorite guys in professional wrestling, Jeff Cobb's one of them, Kota Ibushi another, SANADA another. Being such a New Japan fan that I am, they need to go at it again before this year is over, or sometime next year. Cobb and Ibushi doing in a longer match, but that match needs to be seen. And I would say also the third match that folks need to see from the B block, man, Tanahashi versus Naito. Tanahashi versus Naito was probably, for me speaking, the best match I saw in the tournament. And I have not been a lover of Tana for the last couple of years, but that match said to me, all right, the ace is still the ace, because Naito didn't carry that match, to say the least. So I would have to say those three matches right there are the matches that folks need to watch.
So these guys already named probably the best matches between Naito and Tanahashi. The three that Tempest said, those are my top four. Stay tuned for my Sportskeeda article that will be dropping with the top 10 matches. Those will definitely be in the top 5 for sure. So I'm gonna go a little bit different. 3, I'm gonna say Osprey versus Suzuki. To see Suzuki at 52 years old go move for move with the fastest wrestler on God's green earth was amazing to me. Was it just amazing and awe-inspiring? Cobb versus Ishii, like I said earlier in this review, the greatest Jeff Cobb match in his career, bar none. And one, the most unique matchup of the entire freaking year, Kota Ibushi versus Taishi. I'm salivating. I'm slobbering thinking about that match. They used kicks for 17 minutes. 156 kicks for 17 minutes. I have never seen anything like that. You need to watch that. If you're a professional wrestling fan, even if you're probably a May fan, you will enjoy Kota Ibushi versus Taishi from night 17. The most unique and different match of the entire tournament, of the entire year. Watch it. So that is all for our G1 Climax 30 finale and overview. Tempest, good brother Tempest, thank you so much for joining us. Tell the people where they can find you on social media. Tell them where they can find you on Wrestle2 and WrestleTalk. Good brother, take it away.
Well, thank you guys very much for having me. It was a lot of fun. Obviously this has been a very long and at times grueling tournament when covering it for work, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good time to be able to get around and talk about some New Japan. So I do appreciate you having me on. That being said, you can follow me on Twitter at TempestWT, and if you want to get all of my random ramblings about pro wrestling, that's where you can probably get most of it. Otherwise, I am on Wrestle2, the sister channel of WrestleTalk, of course. You may see me on WrestleTalk from time to time as well, so make sure you give a follow to all of the WrestleTalk family's accounts. Of course, Wrestle2 is where you will find me doing a podcast with Sano Lad talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling, as well as my WrestleTalk recap show every Saturday, where I break down the news and notes in the week of professional wrestling, as well as everything that may have happened on the WrestleTalk channels. So make sure you give a follow to each of those, as well as Parts Fun Known, where every other week we do Quizzlemania, where I am the resident fact checker. So among all of those different channels, you're going to want to follow them if you enjoy hearing from me, as well as following me on Twitter. Otherwise, make sure that you read WrestleTalk.com for more written content. And I think that's about all the plugs I need to make.
And make sure you subscribe to Wrestle2, because I will be on there as well for Alex McCarthy's Wrestling Daily, along with Louis Dangor and the beautiful, the lovely Stephanie Chase. We will be on there every single day, well, Tuesday through Friday, 8 p.m. BST, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with all the latest wrestling news and your hot takes. So check out Wrestle2 for and myself. J-News, you want one final plug of J-News Japan? Because there's more New Japan for the people to enjoy.
I mean, there's always gonna be more New Japan to enjoy, brother. I got a whole day's worth of work in front of me, and I still gotta watch New Japan Strong from Friday night. So look forward to that as well. I think Chris is editing 17 and 18 for release for today, and this will be out sometime later on in the week. And obviously, Power Struggle will be taking place on today's the 19th to 23rd of October, so I'll be covering that as well. Yeah, folks, you know where it's at here, J-News Japan. As I always like to say, make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe to the True Heel Heat Wrestling YouTube channel. It's been good, guys. It's been good. It's early here on the East Coast. It's 11 a.m. I am never up this early, to be quite honest. Because usually I start work at around noon. So it is what it is. But yeah, it's been a fun one, guys. And this was a good G1 Climax tournament to go through and to cover. So without further ado.
So for the good brother, J-News, for our WrestleTalk New Japan expert himself, Tempest, it is me, your True Heel Phenom SP3. I will be back with J-News for the Power Struggle Pay-Per-View Roundtable, but this has been G1 Climax 30 Pay-Per-View Roundtable. We are signing off until next time.
Peace.